this is Brandi, and I'm in the kitchen making my famous Don't Tell Mama red beans and rice. This famous Creole dish is the perfect food for football season, and we're gonna top it off with a little cilantro. We're gonna start out using the small red bean, which is my favorite bean to use in this recipe. We also, instead of using pork fat today, are gonna use beef and turkey sausage, so it's a little bit lower in fat. And then we'll top it off with the most delicious garnish I can think of, and that is cilantro with a little radish and lime juice. That's non-customary to South Louisiana red beans and rice. First thing we want to do is take our small red beans and sort them out and wash them in a colander. Also, the best ingredient I can think of that's the signature flavor of Louisiana is using ground cloves. We just want to make sure that we don't have any pieces of anything that go in the dry beans that doesn't belong there before we put it in our pot. The next thing we'll do is select a pot that we can fit enough water in it with our meat, our seasonings, and then put about just a thumb's length of water over and above the level of the beans. I'm just going to add about 4 bay leaves into my pot and turn it on medium-high heat. Now the base for most South Louisiana dishes, including red beans and rice, gumbo, jambalaya, is what we call the Holy Trinity, and that's onion, bell pepper, and celery. So let's get started. In this recipe, I'm including a little bit of yellow onion and a little bit of green onion just because I like the way the green onion looks in my beans. What we want to do is just chop it up as finely as possible. We'll get a little bit of onion, a little bit of celery. I've got 2 ribs of celery here. Make sure to chop them as finely as possible so you don't have big chunks in your recipe. And a lot of times if I have guests coming over that don't eat green vegetables, I'll leave out the green onions, I'll leave out the bell pepper, and I'll leave the celery out as well. But I'll never leave out the onion, and I'll never leave out the cloves. The next thing that we're going to want to do after chopping up our Trinity seasoning is to take our sausage and dice that up pretty good. I like the increased surface area of cubing the sausage pretty finely. So what I do is I take the sausage link and I cut it in half, and then I quarter it lengthwise before dicing it. I don't have a very sharp knife today, but it's very important that you get a sharp knife because a dull knife is when you can really get cut. So you chop all that up and prepare that to get into your pot. The next thing I like to do is I like to include a little garlic in my recipe. Now garlic is not necessary, but I like to add it just because it gives it a little bit of flavor. It's very good for you, but not too much. Maybe just about 4 cloves of garlic in the recipe. 4 large cloves. Do this. So after we chop these vegetables and our sausage up, what we're going to want to do is add it to our pot. We've now added our vegetables and our sausage into the pot. So what I want to do next is to go ahead and give it a little bit of extra seasoning by putting some salt in there. I like to use black and red pepper. Sometimes to me, if I'm using red pepper, it's a little bit too spicy for all of my guests. So I mix that up a little bit. And just to make sure I know exactly how much I'm putting, if I don't measure it out, what I'll do is I'll just pour some in the cap and I eyeball it. But it's going to be maybe about 1/8 teaspoon. You also want to make sure you wash your hands really good and don't get that anywhere on your fingertips. And now comes the best part of all, because again, we want to have cloves as our secret ingredient that gives it the signature spice. So I'm also going to pour some of that in my cap. I would say about 1/2 teaspoon, and then add that to my pot. And it's real funny because when I'm cooking this recipe, once I put the cloves in, everybody comes running from downstairs because that signature smell starts to permeate my household and they know Mama's cooking. Well, now that our dish is ready, I'm just about ready to ladle it over a nice bowl of piping hot rice, just like my mom did. The only difference is that when we eat it on Saturdays, that's the day that we do our laundry, we watch football, not on Mondays like she traditionally did when we were growing up. So don't tell Mama that I use parboiled rice in this recipe. She would probably have a heart attack because every good South Louisiana girl uses Mahatma long grain rice with a little dash of vinegar. I'm ready to spoon some of the beans and sausage over my rice. It's my favorite dish. So this is Brandi, and I hope you enjoyed this great red beans and rice recipe as we prepare for a great football season. Don't forget to fan my page, The Soapbox, and send me all your feedback. And until then, don't tell Mama.